When I was 7, my family sold me for profit. Getting revenge was the best thing I could have done. Your daughter could be a model, you know? The smiling man approached us when we were having our ritualistic ice cream. We couldn't afford anything there but the once-a-month sweet treat. I'll admit I have unique looks. My hair was always jet black, even as a child, contrasting with pale complexion and emerald eyes. I had, indeed, fantasized about being a model when I grew up, after seeing so many advertisements in the mall, all of them containing huge images of stunning ladies, surrounded by perfume bottles and jewelry, and dressed in daydreams. My husband, Mom started to shyly answer, but the man cut her off. He probably went through that dozens of times. Why don't I give you my card and you call me after Dad allows it? His smile grew wider. So wide you could see something underneath, but as a 7 years old, I couldn't pinpoint what. She agreed. That night, I pretended to sleep and overheard them. How much did he offer you, Janet? Dad asked, aggressively as usual. Nothing much really, she said in an unsure tone. He slammed his hands aggressively against the counter. You're lying. I know how these things work. I swear, Bradley. He just told me to call. So call him, damn it. Just like that? What do you want me to say? We can't afford it anymore. I'm not even sure the damn prick is mine, considering the amount of men that you've been with. I just had one other boyfriend before you, Brad, I swear. I could tell by the tone of her voice that she was hurt. It took me a few years to understand what he meant, the idiot. I looked exactly like him. They fell into an uncomfortable silence. Eventually Mom spoke up. So you want to give her away? Another slam. Don't be dumb. Who's talking about giving? We're selling it. My dad was slurring over his words. I could tell he was drunk. But you know they probably will. That's none of my damn business, Janet. He said furiously. The next morning, Mom asked me to wear my favorite dress and pack my best clothes. This was easy for me because I didn't really have many clothes that could be considered good. Where are we going, Mom? Modeling, she answered in a rushed tone, her smile faltering. We'll see that nice gentleman from yesterday. We took the bus because Dad didn't let her drive, and said she was too dumb for it. He, on the other hand, was always too wasted to control a wheel. Our decadent Chevrolet Vega sat in the garage collecting dust. Dad was there to make sure that Mom wasn't hiding any money from him. He didn't let her work, so he knew that if she handled the transaction alone, he would probably never see her again. Everything was quick. The gentleman was named Mr. Carson, and his slightly chubby hand gave my parents a firm handshake, then handed me a lollipop. He took a few pictures of me, said everything was good, and gave my parents the money. It seemed to be more than they expected. Damn, if that's the price we should make a new one, Dad exclaimed, his yellowed fangs opening up in a smile for the first time in years. Mom bit her lip and buried her face on her only coat, a beaten-up pinkish parka. She stroked my hair, tearing up silently, and we parted ways. Mr. Carson took me to his house. His car was brand new and he let me pick the song. The drive was so different from the ones with my parents. The songs were always filled with screams, Dad cursing at the other drivers, Mom begging him to not pick a fight, him telling her to shut up. If he was in a really bad mood, he would lock me in my room and leave me without dinner because I was breathing too loud or couldn't hold back my tears while they fought. The place was a suburban, generic middle-class house, white picket fence style. It was gorgeous for a humble girl like me. He parked. What will do now, Mr. Carson? I asked, afraid he would hit me for being Snoopy. Please, call me Ted. I'm taking you to your room. Soon it will be lunchtime, but I have a task for you first. I looked at him obediently. I left a videotape on your room's TV. Please watch it and take notes, then during lunch, act like the girl you'll see. Got it? Sure, Ted. I was overjoyed my room had a TV. I diligently watched the tape, then after around 2 hours Ted took me downstairs to have a light lunch, consisting of sandwiches and soda. I did my best to imitate the girl. You've done well, Delilah. This is your name now, got it? I nodded obediently. I'll put on another tape for you, but you can use the afternoon to relax too. Take a nap if you want. You'll have a lot of tasks tonight, he said, taking me back upstairs. That night, while I prepared for dinner, I was confident in my skills. Ted left me a brand new change of clothes, and told me to dress up nicely. It was a special occasion. In the dining room, stood an older woman. She was beautiful, and looked remarkably like me. Her eyes sparked up when she saw me, wearing a pretty tutu dress. Delilah. She hugged me tightly then, still not letting go, stared at Ted. How did you do it? They're almost identical. I was lucky. Over dinner, they explained to me why I was there. Ted and Laura had a daughter named Delilah who died at 15. It was a painfully silly death. She insisted on going to a pool party and drowned. Most people around were drunk teenagers, too drunk to help. Their world was destroyed. They couldn't accept losing their only child, the light of their life. She was such a good girl, and now she was gone for such a stupid reason. So they decided to look for a new one, a girl that looked like the original Delilah and could mimic her demeanor perfectly. They were so good to me. Laura loved me to bits, and Ted spoiled me rotten. I was a true princess, living a make-believe life. I went to a great school, we had amazing family trips together, my toys and clothes were always the best, the trendiest, the coolest. It was easy to become their perfect daughter once I practiced a little. Delilah never had to beg for a cup of water or be trapped inside a dark closet because she was listening to the TV too loud. As long as I learned everything about the original Delilah and could act like I was her, the world was mine. Until I turned 12. Ted and Laura said they needed to talk with me. I was ready to be sent back home, to the horrible, hopeless life I had before. You know, Delilah. Our other Delilah was perfect, but she had a serious problem, Laura started. She grew up. She grew apart from us. If she never insisted on making her own decisions, on going to that damn party, she would still be here with us. Ted was grinding his teeth. We can't let that happen to you. I'll admit I thought they were going to murder me to preserve my youth and innocence. But Ted had other plans. Your father is a very good scientist. He can fix you. I consented, still unsure of what needed to be fixed. But I wanted to be with them, and I wanted to make them happy. The three of us went to the basement and Ted wired me to his machines. You'll be young forever, my Delilah. Let's hope it works this time, Laura added, uneasily. The machine started making this whirring sound and I could hear it powering up. Then it happened. The last thing I remember before being hit by a bolt of endless pain was understanding that there were other surrogate Delilahs before me. I thought I would never speak again from the pain. I felt my bones shattering into a million pieces and reforming back all wrong, rinse and repeat. My body was an endless puzzle consisting of a billion pieces. My limbs literally swam in a pool of despair, metallic despair. I felt dead, but I was also conscious. Like a coma, but with constant excruciating pain. I was nothing but a pile of organic matter for days. I was as much a daughter as I was a guinea pig, infinitely floating in his lab fluids, until somehow everything was assembled again. I woke up in my bed. Both Laura and Ted were by my side. There was a sharp pain in the back of my neck, but other than that, nothing at all. They kissed my hair, begged for forgiveness and asked how I was. I was, as crazy as it sounds, fine. The hours of infinite aching were distant now, almost like they happened to someone else. I ran my fingers through my neck and felt something different there. I asked if they could see anything. Ted gasped. It's a new bone. The new bone was small, but shaped like a thorn. It pricked my finger, but didn't really hurt me. 2 years went by. While the other girls my age were quickly growing up in height and shape, I never fully developed into a teenager. It was clear that something was different with me. Ted and Laura were overjoyed to notice I was still childish in mindset and looks. It had worked, after all. I didn't mind it. Maybe puberty was nice to others, but not to most. A lot of my classmates had awful breaks of acne, and talked in irregular, weird tones of voice. One girl even had a boob way bigger than the other. I was happy being a child instead of a train wreck. Others weren't so happy. Why the hell do you still look the same? You a witch or something? It was Sandy, the tallest girl in class. She was a troublemaker, and she had picked me as a target because I was too short and my skin was too clear. She grabbed onto me and I tried my best to escape from her grasp, I swear. I hated fighting. But something snapped in me and 10 seconds later she was on the ground with her arm snapped in half. It happened in an instant and it was crazy. I merely grabbed her wrist and felt everything inside just break. Sandy cried desperately, her arm swelling and looking like rubber, while shards of bones erupted from the skin. It was nauseating seeing what was left of her arms. Nobody understood what happened, and everyone ruled out as impossible that such a small girl could cause this damage to a strong and tall bully. The school nurse called the hospital while saying that Sandy must have fallen in a weird way. That day, I felt the thorn-like structure in my neck burning like crazy. When I told Ted, he took me to the lab to perform a few tests. It appears that, as a side effect, you became extremely strong, he said, after a few hours. But why didn't I break anything else before? I asked. How did you feel when this girl Sandy tried to pick a fight with you? Very annoyed. Well, then your strength is probably triggered by negative emotions. I considered the information for a few seconds. It made sense. My life was so perfect that, ever since I underwent the procedure to stay young forever, I never had a bad experience. Or, at least, not the kind that would make me easily break something as sturdy as a human bone. A few weeks after we discovered my superhuman angry strength, I finally understood that Dad thought he was selling me as a servant, and he was totally okay with it. After hurting my mother in ways I'll never know and understand, after hitting me and starving me over nothing, he thought that handing his only 7-year-old daughter to an unknown man was perfectly normal. If she was going to be subject to servitude, it was none of his business. This thought enraged something in me I didn't even know existed. I decided I wanted revenge. I rang the doorbell of my former home. Who would believe that a teenager too small for her age could turn a grown man's limbs to dust? I did.